We laugh. So today we're talking about Genesis 34 to 36. It is my go. I've been tagged in. So I'm going to do a recap. Um, as soon as I do something, though, I really have to do something. Hold on. So I want to make sure that it's actually working. Okay, that did not work. I'm trying to log into something so that so I can make sure that this is working. But hold on. All right, maybe this will let me log in. All right, cool. Sorry for these technical difficulties. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to know. I don't know where this live stream is going. Hold on a second. Why can't I? How did I get kicked out of? Yeah, this is weird. I can see my post, but I can't see. All right, yeah, there it goes. Oh, it's working. Anybody who is live just omit all of that. All right, cool. Yeah, it's working. All right, so we're in Genesis 34, and it's starting off with this young lady named Dinah or Dinah, depending on how you want to say it, and she is Jacob's only daughter. All right, so it says that one day she goes into town to visit some young women who live there. So remember that they are living next to a pagan society. So they're kind of separated. They're on the outside of the town. And when she goes there, she is approached by Shechem, which is the son of the owner of the town, like the king there. And he seizes her and he rapes her. All right. But right after that, he claims to have fallen in love with her and he wants to marry her. So he convinces his father that is true love and I really want to have her. So his father goes and talks to Jacob um, and tries to explain that he really, wants them to get together, like wants them to marry his son and his daughter to get married. And then as well as give us your daughters and we'll give you our daughters and then we can become one nation and be well together. The sons hit, so Jacob hears this and there is no reaction that's on record of how he feels about it. But the sons hear it and they take this as I don't want to say an opportunity, but they go the route of vengeance. So they say that they can't possibly give their sister to someone who defiled her. So then Shechem is really like begging, basically saying, please let me marry her. I really, really love her. I really want to be with her. And so they go with this deceitful response of, okay, well, if you want to marry, my sister, then she can't be married to anybody that's uncircumcised. So everybody in the town has to be circumcised, all the men, as well as you, your father, everybody. And so, but if you're not going to do this, then we can just take our sister and go on our way. So they agree. The son and the father agree to convince all the other men in the town to circumcise themselves. And they do this by convincing the men that we're going to get all their livestock, all their possessions, and everything like that. Like it's going to be a benefit to everybody if these two get married. So let's go ahead and circumcise ourselves and be done with this so that we can move forward as a nation. So they go forward with it. They convinced the town to do so. And the men on the town council agree and they, get circumcised. 3 days later, Simeon and Levi show up and they kill the men in the town, and they go and they take, their sister back. But then the other brothers show up and they start looting and taking the men, the women and the children as captives. And this really, really upsets Jacob. So he's like, you made a stink of me among all the people of this land. And he's really, really mad at his sons at this point in time. And so their feedback is like, why would we, let our sister like become like this, prostitute or this whore, and not retaliate? Like, why would we just let this go? And so God speaks to Jacob and tells him that they need to move. So they need to go, and he tells them to build an altar. And so Jacob goes to everybody in his household and tells them to get rid of all their idols and everything like that, because they're about to move into this new place that God has for them, and where he has to build this altar for God. So eventually everybody leaves, and they arrive in Canaan. And that's where Jacob builds the altar. Altar. And they named the place Bethel. And God continues to bless Jacob. So Jacob came out of the situation, I wouldn't say well and great, but even though his sons went astray and did all these things, God still stayed with them and reminded him that he changed his name to Israel. This on Genesis 35:11, that's the first account that I have of him announcing that his name is El Shaddai, which is God Almighty. So I thought that was really neat. That's the first time I've heard it, read it for the Bible, from the Bible, was in Genesis 35:11. After that, Rachel gives birth to a baby boy, and names him Ben-Oni, but for some reason Jacob calls him Benjamin. It actually says the baby father calls him Benjamin, which is son of my right hand. But Rachel died in childbirth, and she was buried. And then it just skips. It feels like a lot. It goes into the next real big thing, which is really grazed. It happens, and then there's no more talk of it until later on in the Bible, which is when Reuben, which is Jacob's first son, his oldest son, sleeps with his concubine. And then Jacob heard about it. But again, it doesn't say that Jacob did anything, approached him, or anything like that. All of the things that Jacob has to say to his sons happens when Jacob is on his actual deathbed, and I believe chapter 49. Verse 49. So then Jacob returns to his father's land, and he ends up burying his father with his brother and their sons. And then Genesis goes into 36, which is the descendants of Esau. And so it starts to list a whole bunch of Esau's descendants. But I did highlight that he married his cousin, which I don't think was too odd for the situation, Ishmael's daughter, Basemath. And eventually the land became too small for the two families, as far as like Esau and Jacob. And Esau took all of his clan and moved along. And then in the rest of Genesis, it continues to go into the descendants of Esau. Yes. And that is pretty much, that's my roundabout notes. That's what I have, is like everything of just like how it happened. But my highlights, unless you want to do your highlights first. Do you want me to go into my highlights? Okay, so my highlights were starting with Dinah or Dina. I thought it was quite sad that I don't know why she went into town. I did research it. Some people say she was being rebellious, and that she was never supposed to be there, because it was already known that this town was separate than what Jacob and his family was. So she knew better than to go there. And then if she is of age to be married, then she knows that there's a danger. She is now like a woman, and this could have happened to her. So she put herself in a predicament to have, in harm's way. No, she didn't do anything to invite the situation. No woman ever does. But a lot of studies talk about how she knew better, and that this was an act of rebellion, and that this is what happened as a result of that. I found it quite odd that Shechem felt like he loved her after the fact. I don't know what that strong feeling is after you take such something so precious, because she was a virgin, and rape is never okay. So I don't know why he felt like he was in love and that he had to have her, other than um, him knowing that she could not be married anywhere else. Like they would consider her damaged, and so she couldn't go anywhere else and go with anyone else. Her family, really, I don't know what her future would have been like or what it is going to be like, because she's still there. He has passed on since they killed him. Um, so I don't know if it was real love per se, but he really felt something strong towards her. And I don't know how he convinced his father, other than his father thinking that he was going to come up from the situation in the sense that if we marry them, and I know that they have big money and they have all these livestock, then we're going to get some of that, because now our families are together. We are one. But the mixing of the two, as far as like Jacob's lineage and the people of this town being pagan, was never supposed to happen. That is the reason why Esau's parents were so upset, because that's what Esau did. He went and mixed himself with the women of that town. What is it, Canaanites, I believe that he is that. I forget what women of what tribe he married, but they were not of the chosen family. But going back to Dinah's situation, I don't know why Jacob didn't react, other than it wasn't meat that we needed for this particular part of the Bible. Like, it wasn't going to be enough to tell us his reaction. But his initial reaction, honestly, was not to tell his sons immediately. But his sons overheard, or somebody told his sons anyway. And then that's when all that happened. I also don't know why you would mess with a girl that has 12 brothers. I don't know how that would turn out good in any culture. Um, he should have done what he did to any girl at all, but to go ahead and do that with somebody who is like, she got mad brothers. Like, how did you think that? And is she the baby? I don't remember. I know she's not in the beginning of all of Leah's children. She's like towards the end. So basically, all her brothers are older than her also.
So to me, that moment basically speaks to why I think Shechem then went on this "oh I love her" thing.
You think that he was like, "Oh, you Dinah,"
Yeah,
like
and
like little Dinah with the 12 brothers.
yeah, because um, he probably maybe he didn't really know, or maybe he couldn't help himself. I don't know. But once he found out who she was, and they knew, he probably did tell his dad like, "Yo, I
We
messed
don't want
up."
that smoke.
Uh, Big Jake and his tribe, like the Big Money Jake, basically like the mafia. He probably had like this name about him because I mean, who wouldn't know about this guy that has God's anointing on him? I mean, I'm sure they know about him in all the lanes, east to west. So I feel like him and his dad probably came up with this plan, like, oh, you gonna marry that girl. Oh, you gonna make this right, because that's what I thought. Like, even to say no to the marriage proposal, no, it's not ideal, and I feel like it was very, very traumatic for Dinah to be married to her abuser.
Yeah,
On the flip side, what we supposed to do with you, sweetheart?
yeah. I mean, and that's why I'm saying, like, culture probably plays a huge role in something like that. Like, he's doing the right thing. It's almost like in our culture how two teenagers might love each other and then they get pregnant and they're like, "Oh, well, you're gonna marry my daughter." But this is on some next level. Like you said, I would consider him like an abuser, and I think her brothers had the right idea. Like, why would we allow our sister to marry such a man? I'd rather her be single all her life. Like, I'd rather her never bear a child than to sit her in a situation. But I did highlight, what is this? 17. So 34:17 and 34:26. In 34:17, it says, "But if you don't agree to be circumcised, we will take her and be on our way." And then 26 says, "They killed them with their swords and then took Dinah." She had never come home yet. You still, and that's why they felt so comfortable approaching these men. Because if you know that you did some foul stuff to their sibling or their daughter and then show up at their house, you were bold enough to show up at their house because you still had her locked up or wherever she is in the town. She has never come home yet. And so I thought that that was interesting that she was like as if they just knew this was going to happen. Like, hey, we're asking you. But really, I'm the king of this town. I can probably do what I want to do. At least you will still have your daughter or be with your daughter or whatever the case may be. So he kind of approached them with a, I mean, you could do that, but I mean, I still got your daughter. So there's that part. So I thought that was real interesting because this a part of me when I read it the first time was like, oh, she went home crying to her mother, and because they never mention any of that. They don't mention her at all. They mention that she went to town and got raped. That's it. So nothing about her feelings, nothing about her crying out to God, anything like that. And I keep visiting that. Like I find it interesting that we don't get to see that part about how Jacob has this relationship with God and he instills that into his children and they have a relationship with God or his wives have a relationship with God. It's like he has this relationship and then they kind of like how I think Catholicism is, how they pretty much go to their Pope and then the Pope goes to God. You know what? I don't know how that religion goes, but I know that in this situation, it doesn't seem like they have their own relationships. It would have been really nice to have known like her cry out, like her part and her sorrow, especially since this is still happening to women today, and they're trying to, push through with their relationship with God in order to keep going in life. So to not hear the end of her story or what her take was on anything, I would have liked to have, seen that. But moving forward,
Well, wait. So um after hearing what you said about this being like an active rebellion to me, because again, it's hard to um fully take everything that's in the Bible at face value because it's interpretations of something that we really can't understand. So, in taking in the aspect of, oh, she was rebelling, because I mean, a girl with 12 brothers, what she finna do? They probably kept her locked up in the house. So I'm thinking this not her first trip into town. This multiple times. Probably went down there, having a good time, drinking with the locals, thinking she in, because people get ahead of themselves, and she let her guard down. And oh, Shechem had his eye on her since day one. And one day, the wine was plentiful, and you know, things just got a little wild and crazy. And boom,
that would explain the love.
yeah,
He been feeling her for a while. Okay.
he was feeling her for a while, and then he was like, "Oh, you teasing me? Oh, you not gonna give me that? Because who knows? I mean, they've been living there for a while, so I'm sure she's been coming around. And you know how rapey men culture, they like, oh, you gonna leave me like this, blah blah blah," and he just took it. So very manipulative, and he didn't come home. I'm pretty sure at least one of her brothers knew what she had been doing, and that's when they was like, "Man, Dinah ain't come home yet. Let's
Yeah.
go see what's good." And they start listening it because I mean, I don't think, I mean, depending on, I don't really know, and maybe I need to go look at the map, how close um Jacob's crew was to where this town was, like how far of a trek it was. Every time they talk about the next town, it'd be like a day's walk. So it's not like I can see it. You know what I'm saying? Oh, don't go to the end of the block and come back. This don't seem like that type of situation. This seemed like
Yeah.
far. So if she went far and she was able to just walk off like that for multiple times or multiple people, or even just one time to just walk off like that and no one really noticed, I don't think that there is cause to necessarily say, "Oh yeah, we have your daughter," because anybody could technically have your daughter. She could be caught by drifters in the night. You know what I'm saying? Um, how would they know to go to that town to look for her unless someone knew this is what she been doing, this is where she been going? Um, oh, they knew she was coming here, so we gotta send word that, hey, my son is in love with her, and we're gonna have a marriage. Otherwise, like I mean, I wake up, my baby gone. I don't really know where to go, where to look.
Yeah. I mean, well, the father came to Jacob.
That's what I said. So I'm
Mhm.
it was a preemptive thing, yeah, because like she could have been anywhere, but he went there. Yeah, she here with us because I mean, a day's walk could be in any direction, north, south, east, west.
Mhm.
Know where she went unless they knew that she had been, kind of wilding out and figuring out herself. And also, not to speak poorly of her mother and aunt, but they was a little wild and rambunctious too. So she was probably like, I won't be nothing like them ladies.
Yeah, I really would have liked to hear like how Leah reacted, and Rachel was still there, and how the women would have been there for her. But I mean, that wasn't the meat. That wasn't the message that we were supposed to get. It's just like, oh man, like this happened to her, and it's just a horrible story. Like this is the first time rape is recorded in the Bible, so and it's not the last time, unfortunately. So I didn't want to just, glaze over it and be like, oh yeah, that happened. I wanted to be like, okay, let's talk about this. But after that happens, the sons come up with this plan of deceiving Shechem and his father, and telling them that there is an opportunity for our nations to be together. But you have to, circumcise yourselves and all the men. Circumcision after you leave the hospital as a young boy is harsh. So the healing process of this, they knew these are grown men. Like this is going to take some time. That's just them cutting off the foreskin of their genitalia. It's going to hurt, and it's going to take time to heal. And they knew all of this, and they took that as an opportunity to go there and seek revenge on not only the people who did it, but the whole town. And that's a bit much. I'm not saying that they had the right to even kill the boy and the young man and his father, but all of the men of the town. And then after that, the other brothers came through and just started looting and everything like that. But I thought it was interesting how the king, or what is it, Hamor? I mean, no, Hamor, Hamor, the father of Shechem, how he convinced the people in the town, like, there is nothing I can say to my husband that I believe that if he were not already cut, to tell him to cut himself. And it was their greed. They really thought that, we're going to trade our daughters, and we're going to get their daughters, and we're going to get their livestock, and we're going to get all their possessions. And he's saying, we. Meanwhile, good and well it's about to be you. You're the leader of the town. We're probably not even going to benefit from this. So these poor men got slaughtered for almost, like, honestly, nothing that they were in control of other than their greed, and getting, circumcised, thinking that they about to come up. And I thought that was interesting as well. They took it upon themselves to just get all these men looped into their shenanigans, and then all of this happens. Um, Nina says, yes, he used street. Nina said he used street justice instead of letting God handle it, and that is true. Like, we do this also. Like, we see people that get harmed on the news, and we're like, oh, if that was my relative, they wouldn't be walking. Well, that's not really for us to do. We're not supposed to go and seek vengeance because this, that, and the other.
I mean,
And that's hard. I mean, especially if you have the power to do so, to go and seek revenge. Like, that you can beat them. That's kind of hard, but that's not what we're supposed to do. And that's what they did. They took it into their own hands. And then, some of the women and children also were slaughtered. And you can account that to when you just get into this rage, is like, it's whatever, anybody can get it. And that's very unfortunate, because again, they had nothing to do with what happened to their sister. And even after all these people perish, she's not healed or come back from the situation. Um, So, but with the looting part happening, it's like now you took that as an opportunity to come up also. And to me, that kind of diminishes the hurt. So if somebody is already hurt and you go and seek revenge and you hurt the person that hurt them, okay, you did that. You think eye for an eye, but they're gone. And so now you think that you need to go into the town and further do some other stuff and cause harm to these other women and these little kids. That's not in my name. You didn't do that for me. You did that because you was just that enraged, like rage took over from you. And I thought that was, horrible. And then that's when Jacob spoke up.
So this is where I had a note about just like generational curses and like rage, because to the most part, I mean, we don't really know about the upbringing, but they seem to have a pretty chill upbringing, other than that traumatic "or your uncle might kill us" moment. They have no real growing up other than their moms fighting, back and forth, who daddy sleeping with tonight, like, you know. But they seem to be on one accord. This is my brother. This is, my sibling. Um, but if we look through like the lineage of it's like the progression of sin through, even through God's chosen family, like some of the anger and the rage, I feel like was inherited, even though Jacob necessarily wasn't an angry person, he was a shyster. Um, you know what I'm saying? To the point that God literally had to wrestle with him. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And even though he never outwardly had like this physical aggression, I think that through his lineage, um, his boys inherited just like this anger for no reason. And I just made a note about like generational curses. Sometimes we have this anger and we don't really know what it's from, and we need like this way to get it out, because how else would they want to give it out? They lived a promised life. What would they really have to be angry about? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then an opportunity comes and it just kind of like exposes them, like, oh, we get to be violent, and oh, we get to steal, and we get to do these things that typically we're not allowed to do, or we're not supposed to do, because we are these good people, and because we're so blessed, and because of who our father is. It was really just interesting to me, and I thought about, just different things in my life, like that I've inherited, that really don't seem like something that I would be bothered with. But then you think, oh well, this might not even be something that I'm supposed to be dealing with. This could be like a curse from like 4 or 5 generations ago that it's just like within me. And it was really, really interesting. I went through like a whole journal prompt about it.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, generational, like addictions and woes, um, can be passed down. Um, so I think that that is a thing that is real. A lot of people have that experience. For this situation, I was just thinking, why wasn't there like a family meeting? So at first, when I read it, remember, I didn't know that Dinah wasn't there. I thought that she had come home and, ain't nobody talked to her. She wasn't there. She was still in the town. But why didn't Jacob cause like a meeting or something and talk to his sons and say, this is how we're going to handle the situation? He just going to let the sons pop off at the mouth and make this plan. Like, did he leave the conversation? Like, you didn't know that your sons had, this plan? Like, did Jacob agree that he was going to let his daughter be married to this man? Because I mean, that was not the plan for the family. So I would say no. And then he could have deaded the situation like right then and there. Like, why are y'all telling them this? Y'all know good and well there's no chance in way that we're gonna let our precious little girl get married to this man. But for some reason he left the conversation, left the building. I don't know what happened to Jacob where the sons were able to say this to them. They believe it, and all this go down, and Jacob just like, I'm just living my life. I'm focused on what God has for us, and I'm walking that path, and I'm not paying attention to all the stuff that's around me. And I think that's a mistake that we make also as Christians. Like, we be focused on, our church events and this, that, and the other. And you're not like, there's people in your household that, need your attention and need you to pay attention to them. And I feel like we have to make it a priority to do both. You have to find that balance of following God all the while still tending to the responsibilities you have as a leader in your own community, in your household, and things like that. Um, because I don't know how this happened. Like, I don't know how the girl went away. I don't know how she didn't come back home, and how this conversation just happened just like that, and he not know anything about it. Like, what happened when he said, please let me marry her to, he says he tried to speak with Jacob and his sons. And so that means that on in 34:8.
Mhm.
And then it's from there on, it says, then Shechem spoke to Dinah's father and brothers. So to me, he was there. Nina is saying that's what a lot of Christians do. I think you're talking about as far as like our divided attention, and we kind of be like, you know what, I need to just be focused. And there's nothing wrong with focusing on God, of course. But we're still here, and we still have, things that he wants us to do. Nobody's supposed to be buried in the sand and just looking up at the sky. We can multitask and pay attention to multiple things in our lives, and not let those around us perish or go through hardship if we could have done something about it. And I'm just saying, as the leader of their household, he could have heard this conversation and was like, that's not what we do. That's not right. That sound like you lying to them, and came into the conversation and said some stuff. But it seemed like either he was quiet or he kind of just zoned out. I don't know.
I
But
think
yeah.
to me, if I'm just imagining, and I know Jacob probably wasn't sitting on like a throne, but like imagine Jacob sitting on the throne in the center and his sons, to the left and to the right, and him and his dad, Shechem, call him Shechem, and his dad were like standing in front of them making their plea or whatever. So the son started, talking, and it's kind of like your family is wrong, but you're never going to disagree with them in front of company.
But they not the leader. Like, I can see you being on a hush hush if your father stepping up and saying something crazy, and you be like, you know what, that's dad. I'm gonna let that go. When company leave, I'm gonna be like, Dad, what was you talking about?
It's
But I'm
like
a child. Like, I'm the lower.
you haven't seen it. I mean, you're a mom, so like if your son did something wrong in school, even teacher was like, "Oh, he talking in class, blah 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 blah," and then so I did this and this. You will address him talking in class when y'all get home. But right there, you're there to support him and back him up in whatever the teacher said did that was an injustice at that point, and then you gonna handle him on the backside. People do a united front in front of the enemy or opposition because you're supposed to be united. You're not like if Jacob was to disagree or to like silence them in that moment, I feel like it would have caused like contention in the ranks, and they would have been like, oh well, they're not this cohesive unit, they're not this, they're not that, and people use that as a sign of weakness and can kind of destroy things like crap.
I know what you're saying, but in this situation, considering that I don't know, like, okay, let's say door closes, Shechem and his father leave. What was that about? What you about to do?
Well,
Why
so
you got all these men in the town circumcising themselves? And why would you promise my daughter to this man?
all right.
Go get that right.
So number one, only thing that was proposed was, hey, let them all get circumcised. And he's like, I mean, we all circumcised. The least they could do is be circumcised and blah blah blah. And Jacob probably like, you know what? Fine, circumcise them, whatever. Um, that's cool.
But he said, if every man among you will be circumcised like we are, then we will give you our daughters, and we'll take your daughters. Not only is Dinah on the on the platter for today, it's all the women, all the young women.
Right. But
But
remember when they first started doing this, the symbolicism, is that a word? The symbolism. of circumcision was, the covenant with God. So maybe it's put here. Maybe they say, "Oh, you gotta get circumcised," but maybe it's like a thing. Well, oh, y'all need to get baptized. Like think of it as that wise. Like y'all gotta stop being so pagan-esque and start transitioning over. Everybody in your town needs to make this covenant, and then you can have our daughters and our.
That sounds like something they told Jacob to make him feel okay with this. Oh no, Dad, we got this. We about to convert all of these non-Christian, well, not non-Christians. We
Non.
about to convert all of these people who don't believe.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, think of if I'm think. That's how I read it. I read it as y'all need to clean it up. Then you will be worthy of our sisters and our daughters of our women's. And
Okay, so you feel like this was just the first step.
yeah, that's what they said. But clearly they had other plans.
I'm about to say, it says before they spoke, it says they responded deceitfully. Meaning, I ain't got all that Morgan talk about. Nah. We
No,
not going to do none of that.
because they were lying from the beginning. But when you present it that way, especially knowing who your father is, and he wasn't, this vengeful. I mean, he was spicy, but he wasn't this aggressive person. They knew from jump, Pop's not going to handle this. It's up to us to do X, Y, and Z and move forward.
Hold on. Nina says, I agree with Morgan. That's how I read it. I feel like the sons had other plans.
Yeah, but you present it as this wholesome thing because it's no way you can just be like, oh, well, yeah, cut your skin off. You can have our women. They have to be persuasive and like understand that, hey, this is for a reason. We need you guys to get your, level up in order to be worthy of our women. And then, so otherwise, what would be the purpose? There's no way, like you said, that you would get a whole gaggle of men to be like, all right, cut me. So,
It's
men,
worth all the sheep. They got cows too? Okay.
like in vasectomies, and that's internal, not even external. So, and that reads like what, 2-3 days.
Yeah. So that's the Dinah situation. They go, they take revenge, they they go and they kill all the men. But this is just Simeon and Levi. So apparently those were the two that were having the conversation. And then the rest of the brothers just show up. Yeah, it says the rest of the sons arrive,
Mm-hmm.
finding the men slaughtered. So they're like, dang, we didn't miss it. Let's loot. Like, I don't know why they didn't say, oh, we won. Our brothers are here. They avenged our family. We have our sister. Let's be on our way. No, they went and they continued. Like they was like, let's keep the party going, and just went into the town and just seized everything, took everything, did what they wanted to. I don't see where they did anything wrong to the women. I mean, sexually, they did take them and their and the children as captives. I don't did they kill any of the because I thought I had read that they killed some women. Well, I know they seized. So they
Yeah.
took a whole bunch of stuff and they took a whole bunch of people. And that's why when they got there with Esau was like, we ain't got no space.
But so
Where all these extra donkeys come from?
if you kill all the men, and the men are the like traditionally like the providers, the shepherds, the herders, and everything, um, it is uh the women, they need somebody to provide for them, air quote, yeah, it's a thing. So I think that, I mean, even though it wasn't nice, it was kind of a kindness because if they would have left them there to starve, how was they going to survive?
Mm-mm.
But um, I feel like as far as the other brothers coming and like doing more, to me, like while logic says, hey, nothing you can do is ever going to make this right again for Dinah, but again, there is nothing that can make it even. So like they just went there to like,
They
no,
went ham.
yeah, like no, we can't get her back, but I want her to know that like I got her back, and like I'm going to make them pay for what they did in whatever way I can. Be it, I mean, the little brothers, they went to killing. Be it stealing stuff. Like, what you want? You want this Gucci? I got the Gucci for you. Like,
And then, I mean, and that's what my point was. Like, you don't take into consideration what either the victim wants or what the victim considers you standing up for them, because you could have just made the situation worse. Like, what if she was on some, hey, I've spent time in this town. I was going to this town to see some of these young girls, and now you done slapped them and took kids and took fathers that had nothing to do with this. This is not what I wanted. Like, you didn't make the situation worse. That would have been my approach. But I mean, there are people who was like, yeah, do what you got to do because I'm really, really hurt. But that's in their time of pain. And that's what they're in. They're in a time of pain and they're reacting. And it's just real unfortunate, like, to see all these bad things happen from a bad thing. Like, you would want it to just turn around and flip and then, good things happen.
what also I think that, remember how we had a conversation with whatever movie it was, where a woman was being assaulted, and you know it's like by a police officer and her husband's there, and it's like in that moment, do you want that to intervene and risk getting killed, or do you just want him to let whatever happen to you? And if he lets whatever happen to you, are you now looking at your husband, or in this case your 12 brothers, like y'all did nothing for me?
But that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it was right that they went and they killed the men. But they could have stopped there. That's when they got her, killed the men, and Simeon and Levi could have been gone. On the way leaving, it's like they saw their brothers and was like, where y'all going? He was like, we about to finish up. It was like, no, we got our sister. Like, that's all we was coming for, was to get our sister. And we meant to only kill 2 people, but things got out of hand and we killed all the men. And it was like, well, I didn't get my revenge. And that's how some people feel. Like, they have now internalized it as something against them. And it's like, well, it was against your sister. I know you feel angry, but your other brothers got a chance to take their anger out on this town, but I didn't get a chance to do that. So what I'm about to do is go loot and smack a couple people, take some donkeys and flock, and make myself feel like I did something too. Because if you feeling like, oh, she gonna look at her brothers like y'all ain't do nothing, it could have been, oh, Levi and Simeon really love me. Them others ain't do nothing to help.
You tell
I gotta. So what comes to? Yeah, I didn't get the chance to kill a couple men, but I did smack a couple people, and I did get these 5 girls and these 3 kids and this donkey. Like, she didn't ask for none of that. That's what I was saying, Nina. Like, not that would have been good. Like, I don't want them to do any of that, but I'm like,
how
Shechem could have been enough. Like, you could have went to Shechem and said, or they could have just dealt with the circumcision and be like, aha. They could have just tricked them that way and be like, yeah, now you sore.
Yeah, but like, okay, even if someone is sore, they're still going to put up some type of fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I'm pretty sure that Shechem wasn't the first hut you got to when you got in the town. You had to go in and infiltrate and get to him. I'm sure he's the king's son. So they had to. I mean, I had to, but they were going to at least kill 5 people, I feel like, before they got to Shechem.
Okay. Yeah. Not in the state of being circumcised. But I also, like, if that's the case, unless they were just going door to door, just slaughtering men, I wonder if it was more than Simeon and Levi. Like, did they come with not their brothers, obviously, but there's other men in the town. I mean, in their tribe, other male servants. So, but yeah, that's just. And I keep telling people, like, I mean, I'm not saying that this is like, ooh, but the Bible is not boring. And that's what I want to drive home to a lot of people. Like, you really should open it up and read it. It's some stuff that we still deal with today, or that you didn't seen on TV or read in a book somewhere else. It's just that in this message, you get to see how God feels about the situation, and those of God feel about the situation. I think that's definitely the benefit that a lot of people miss out on when they say, oh, I don't want to read the Bible. And it's like, why not? Like, have you picked up? Have you really like tried to read it? It's not this snooze fest. Um,
Looking at the map on
Stuff really happens. But if we move forward, Jacob then gets very upset. And Nina's point about Jacob getting upset, she says, I feel Jacob was so angry when he found out the truth because he told them now we're going to have issues with other inhabitants. Yeah, so there was other people. He was like, other people are going to see that we did this and they're going to join forces and crush us. Like that's what he said. We about to get crushed. So God said we got to move. Um, and that's why he called himself ruined. He was there and he had this plan, this mission, and then your sons and people run buck wild and do a whole bunch of stuff. And their rebuttal was, so we just supposed to let him treat our sister like some common prostitute, or some translations say whore. And no, I definitely don't think that Jacob was like, let them treat our women and our loved ones how we want to. But it was more of a, like I was saying, like we couldn't have consulted with God first. Like you didn't let me talk to the Lord. We didn't even have a family meeting about this. Y'all just did this on your own. That's also not right. No, we weren't going to do anything, but some stuff, if left up, well, some stuff you fall back and you let the Lord do what the Lord has in His will to be done. And you may not, some stuff you're not going to see the result of what God did. And you have to, by faith, be perfectly fine with that. Somebody can go and they can scratch your car, and depending on where you are in your faith, your prayer will be like, Lord, please teach them a lesson. When it should be, focused on you. Like I want forgiveness for my, my thoughts, my bad thoughts, and the fact that I went and did the same thing in their car. I keyed their car too. So he was big mad. He was mad. He was.
now. I have a note, nothing against you, Jake, but I had a note in here about, do you think that he was mad more so because of public image? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he's working to be, this chosen family and a change over his life and to do, be this new person and, still this reputation. And now he has these this basically mad gang of sons that's like the mafia underneath him. And sometimes we get more angry based off of, how we look to people. Because it's a blow. Not, I didn't want to use the word ego, even though we know that Jacob in the past has had an ego, but I feel like you can definitely see that change.
Now.
Yeah, that hit him. But I did question whether that was old, like ego-ness, like you know who I am, and you out here doing this, like you can't do this type situation. And I mean, granted, he did quote God, and God did tell him to move, but like the anger, to me, he was more mad at what his sons did than what happened to his daughter.
Yeah, that part. Like I was like, where was all the smoke when my man came to you and said, yeah, my son did a thing, but it's not, that happens. But besides that, not only do I want my son to marry your daughter, but can I have the rest of your kids too? Like, what? I wrote in my Bible, he was tripping. And then that was the son. Then further down, I said, he was tripping too. The son was tripping when he said, I want to marry her. And then the father is tripping when he said, can we marry her and arrange other marriages too? But it could have been. I don't know. I honestly, as I read on and they start talking about like, hey, God want to move us and let's get rid of our idols. Like, why they got that anyway? Why y'all rocking jewelry that is, there's nothing wrong with earrings even in this time. It's just that earrings, what I study Bible says were like good luck charms type of things back then. Nothing like this. This is not an idol. I don't put it above God like some people have done in the past with their jewelry. But from that point, I feel like he lost touch. He was already not really, I don't know, either he lost touch or the people lost touch or they weren't where they needed to be on a lot of different levels. For him to say, hey, we about to move and get right with God and go into the place that God has for us. leave all that stuff behind that y'all been using and been loving on. It shouldn't have been, unless he was saying that to the people who his sons captured.
That could be so. I also feel like in a little bit, like it could be like maybe they were hiding it or he didn't know like the extent to what they're using it, or this situation was a wake up call like, yo, my family has strayed and we gotta get it back. So it's like, okay, well, cool, y'all can have your earrings and y'all can, wait, have your good luck charm. But if this how y'all gonna be acting, y'all wildin', take them off. You're gonna look like a boy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that type of, all right, we got to get back to basics because I gave y'all an inch and y'all then went around the world.
Have you ever, like when people say there's a backslide, like, oh, I'm super saved, I'm on fire for God, I'm buying all the things, I'm listening to this music, I'm just tunnel vision, I'm on fire. And then something happens, either adultery, fornication, murder, something that you do that's like against where you're trying to go with your relationship with God, or you just simply stop going to church, or lose yourself in some kind of way. And then you see that, and then when you notice this has happened, you're like, I need to get right with God. And you start to say, I can't watch this kind of show. I can't watch this, that, and the other. Maybe that's what happened. Like they had, sometimes we either put God on the shelf, or we think that I'm gonna go to him when things go bad. But since it's good right now, I'm just gonna continue doing me. And if that's the situation that happened, I think we can learn from, since that happens to us, we can learn from this situation in the sense that we need to strip ourselves of the things that we put before God. And they use the word idol here. And a lot of people are going to be like, oh, I don't worship a golden calf. But when you wake up in the morning, do you check your phone first? Like, you don't have no conversation with God, you don't pray or anything like that. Like, you checking your phone, you want to see what everybody on the internet has to say about you first, and then you go and write in your journal, or and then you do this, that, and other. And it's not to like throw shade onto anybody who may watch or read or listen to this. It's just, we definitely have idols in the sense of us trying to, we just want to rock a whole bunch of makeup, and I can't be me without this thing, or I can't love on others without this thing, or money is this thing, or TV takes all my time. Whatever you're putting before God is an idol. And so from this, I hope that we learn that we have to get rid of all of those if we want to go where God has for us. And it's hard to do. Like they enjoyed their jewelry. They liked, their little idol figures and things like that they had. But it calls for that great sacrifice, or that slight sacrifice, since you're going to gain so much more. But I do want to put it into like terms of now. So yeah.
So, um, in their situation, I feel like it was more so comfortableness. They got comfortable living so close to pagan people and kind of like, adopting the ways, or like, oh, it's no big deal if I do this or I do that. In terms of today and now, I definitely feel like idols is very dependent upon the person. And like, it just depends on you and your mindset. So some people, it's like some people can watch like a movie and it does nothing to them. It doesn't really affect them. They still grind it. But some people are very, very, um, I it sounds bad, but like easily influenced. Like stuff like that can infiltrate their mind and their spirit more easily than others. And if stuff like that is pouring into you and changing like your inner dialogue, or swaying you, or anything that's distracting you from where you're trying to be in your relationship with God, then yes, you have to be cognizant of it. Like, oh, I can't watch this type of movie, or oh, I can't listen to that type of music because that's gonna make me want to go out here and do a little humpy hump. Whatever it is that sets you off. I think number one is about knowing yourself, and number two, knowing where you are in your relationship with God and where you're trying to be. So sometimes it is, just as simple as, okay, I got to give it up. Or maybe it's like, oh, I'll cut back. Or, putting certain things like, I know on the iPhone, I don't know what Droid Life is like, but you can set your home screen up. I do it for like in the mornings. My main screen is featuring stuff that I like to do in the morning. So the only thing that's on my main screen is like my meditation app or like my journaling app, stuff that gets me mentally prepared, not like social media. Social media is not the first app that's on my phone when I wake up because I put those things into place because I want to set my day up with a clear mind. I want to focus on my mental health. I want to say my prayers. I want to build those type of habits. And some people do wake up and like boom, social media. That's whatever you're focused on that is distracting you from God can be perceived as an idol. Some people can balance both. Other people not so much. Some people just have to learn it. It
Mm-hmm.
can really be anything. As far as like, I've never really considered, I guess, makeup to be an idol. Um, because to me that just seems sorry, but some people just really enjoy makeup. That's who they are. Like they enjoy
Well, I
wearing.
meant like makeup as in your appearance. You idolize yourself, like me. Nothing against makeup. I think it's fun. Not good at it, but I think it's fun. But for those who feel like they can't be who God has them to be without it, and that goes into clothes, a spouse. Like if you feel like I can't do without this man, or I can't do without this child, or whatever the case is, I just use makeup as a thing. But I know that it could be a touchy subject for a lot of people because of self-image and the way that just the world is with how we project ourselves. But I wasn't saying like you idolize makeup, though you can. But it's more so when people idolize their image and they think that like the first thing, yes, if the first thing you do is wake up and you work out because you appreciate the body that God has for you and you want to be fit, or are you waking up and working out for other reasons that go along the lines of idolizing the image that you have? Um, and it doesn't have to be, when you wake up, whatever the first thing is what you love above God. That's not what I'm saying either. It's just that have you given him his time and his dues? And if not, and you have no intentions, then that's an issue. You shouldn't have to find time. There you make time and you have time for God. However, you both see fit. You have that conversation with him and y'all agree on whatever time. If he tell you once a week, but he talking to somebody else like you need to hit me up every day, then that's their relationship with God. Nobody should be able to tell you, your relationship ain't good enough. But you do need one. Um, and so for them, as far as like him saying that we're about to move into this great place and I'm about to build this great altar, um, we need to make ourselves right. And so the fact that he can say that makes me feel like, he has it together. Like he's still leading people. It's just that, you don't control people. And that's something else to learn from the story. I'm a mom. Sometimes I look at my kids like, why can't I just make you do what I want you to do? Like I know what's best, but you really can't. And it's almost the most frustrating thing in the world because you want the best for these little individuals, these little pieces of your heart, but you can't make them do anything. They're their own person, and God gave them that right. And it's the same thing for Jacob and his sons. Like his sons are grown. Like he could have said what he said, and it just not have been written here, and said this is not what I want, and then they go do it, and that's why he's even mad. Like this, maybe that's why he's on this level of mad because didn't we talk about this? Didn't I tell you what God has for you and who you really are, and why you out here acting a fool? Got me out here in my house coat talking to you outside about what you did to these people. So he was mad. God still, assured him that he is who God said he is. For the second time, he reminded him, like, you are Israel. Like, do your thing. I got you, type of thing. Um, and changing of the name. I think that's so awesome. And then we get into Rachel, and this is the love of his life, and it's so sad that she died giving birth to Benjamin. I don't know why my Bible said the baby's father. The baby father named him Benjamin. But I don't know why they couldn't just say Jacob, but it almost leads you to believe maybe it wasn't Jacob. Like, but I mean, it was. So, but she died in childbirth, and that's very sad that that happens. And but we have Joseph and Jacob are the sons of Rachel. And then for some reason, like literally, it goes from Rachel died, and her grave can still be seen to this day. Then Jacob traveled on camp beyond this town. And while he was living there, Reuben slept with his father's concubine. And Jacob soon heard about it. And then it said, these are the 12 names of Jacob's kids. And you like, how y'all just going glaze over that? But it comes back. And that shows you also, like, when you do something wrong, it doesn't just happen that time. It's not always going to be like, oh, he did this and then he burst into flames. Like, it doesn't mean that they got away with it, because later on when Jacob is giving out those blessings on his deathbed and he get to Reuben, it's a little different. So but it does go into lineage of Jacob and Esau, and then you learn that Isaac passed away as well, and it continues on with Esau's family, and it's long. It's long.
I didn't feel bad. I did. I was, Rachel died, and to me, because we were just talking about idols, I low key feel like Rachel was his idol. Like he worked for 30 years for that girl.
He just loved her. I don't think he idolized her. He loved her. It was like no other love. Anybody that's willing to marry your sister to have you.
30 years, had sex with 50, 11 women, all because she wanted kids.
I know. Anybody that's willing to have sex with other women for you loves you. Love them some Rachel. He loved her. He really, I really feel like he really, really loved her. I don't know about if he idolized her, because I don't see him putting anything over God. Like, at least not once he really knew who God was in his life. Love can just be that strong but some people, you can idolize your spouse, use them as eye candy and tote them around, and you can do a whole bunch of things that we shouldn't be doing. We just got to look out for stuff like that.
Because
Reuben.
Leah. I want to know if the spice for Reuben came because second to Rachel, he loved Bala. What's her name? Balula. Balula.
Bilha.
Yeah. I wonder if she was her second. Second choice. Because I mean, at this point, we done having kids. Why are you still my concubine?
Oh, men can still have kids.
I understand that he could have, but we don't talk. They don't say that he had any more kids. At that point, I'm assuming he mastered.
So
it.
People, I don't know what's going on over in the land of Morgan, but people, because I can't say men, I'm just gonna say people, because I think it's a people thing. I don't think it's a man thing. We're like dolphins and primates, where we do things for pleasure.
When they first started this little square,
arrangement,
it was for the sake of.
Hold on, is she one of the concubines that had child with him?
Yeah.
Hold on, I gotta go back to the thing. Okay, so she had Dan. Yeah. So I'm assuming Dan should be quite upset. Dan and we just gonna call him Nathaniel. Dan and his little brother should really be feeling some kind of way. Oh, there it is, right there on 25. Genesis 35:25. Yeah, I don't know what Reuben was thinking, or the woman. Like, we're not gonna let her skate and slide by either. I mean, sin is sin. Like, it's just, I don't know if on this journey he couldn't be. He only had his sister.
No,
Other than that, then there was no other girls, right?
women.
Huh? Oh yeah, they took the other women, but he couldn't be with them of the town.
I don't know. I just
I mean, not that this is okay. He should have found somebody, married somebody, and done the right thing. But I don't know what it feels like for your family to be like, this is us, and we're moving about in the world, and we going to towns, and you seeing women, but you can't be with none of them because they all pagan until we get to a point of which we have, a good thing going on. So I don't know what that feels like. Like, I don't know, like you said with Dinah, I don't know what it feels like to have 12 brothers and it's just me. And my only way of having a connection with girls offer me to go into this town that I really shouldn't frequent, and take a risk. So, no excuse for his actions or her actions, that being the concubine. But concubine at that stage doesn't mean that she is sexually involved with him. They could just, be tending to him in some other kind of way. Servants, like a servant. Maybe that was her once upon a time role, but that don't mean that she's still with him. But I just couldn't. I don't know. I don't. It's not right. It's wrong.
it just
All
feels
right.
no sense of mystery. It's a woman who lives with a man who has a lower status than his wife. That's a conflict.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was all for me. Do you have any lasting notes before we wrap up tonight?
No, I think that's all for me as well.
Okay, people. I think that was interesting. What goes into next? Next, we have the story of Joseph.
Big JoJo.
Yeah. So this is different because when you watch like the cartoon, like I love the cartoon Joseph and the King of Dreams, it's like Joseph didn't know about Benjamin, as in he was taken before. Because I'm saying that because our Bible is in chronological order. So I would think that unless they just wanted to wrap up, um, yeah, it just felt like before the death of Rachel, they should have talked about what happens to Joseph. I don't want to say it now, but based on the how things go.
How would they have said that? Because Benjamin had to have been born before what happened to Joseph happened to Joseph.
No, I'm talking about the cartoon.
Uh,
It's a cartoon. And it shows that like Joseph gets sold into slavery, and the only way his brothers are able to prove to him that they have that brother, is by bringing Benjamin to him, like, oh, I didn't know. Hey, Takesha. Oh, hold on, let me put her comment on there. She said, thank you for Bible study. All right. So we'll do what are you doing, Morgan? 37. Wow. 37 is quite long.
really, I'm saying it's short. It's only one page.
Okay. So, oh, no. I didn't see the 38 at the bottom. All right. So you doing 37 only or 37 and 38?
I'll do 37, 38. Okay.
Okay. So let me put that on there. 37, 38. All right. So that is it. It was fun. I will see you guys later. Don't forget that like this is monthly. So show up monthly. If you were not here to partake in the live is afforded to the patrons. So there's a link below if you want to know more about my Patreon page, or you can just email me and let me know, if you're interested or have any questions. Oh, hi, Tonisha. Let's see. Thank you, ladies. I'm so glad I got to join. I look forward to the next one. Bye. And Nina. Oh, yes, 37, 38. All right, ladies. And whomever else is watching. Bye. Oh.